Nigeria, but we'll come back to that later. I wanted to move to a different part of the world because we're right on the heels of a presidential election in Mexico.
Yes.
And one of the distinguishing factors about this particular election is that the man who's won it is absolutely implacably opposed to the war on drugs. And he's not alone. Where are we with drugs and the elders? I mean, do you have a collective view on... No. I'll rephrase that. I'll rephrase that. Do you have a view on the decriminalisation of drugs?
We haven't addressed it collectively as elders, but one of our group, Fernando Henrique Cardoso, the former president of Brazil, has been leading a very important initiative on this issue in Latin America, but actually globally. And I was with him in Rio, and apart from the issues of sustainability we were talking about, you know, young people were coming up and meeting him. He's a hero in that whole region because of the work he's been doing in that area. And it has been discussed informally. We haven't taken a position on it, but I know that President Carter took a very early position on that issue.
Well, we've all been trying to help President Cardoso explain the issues involved in the decriminalization of marijuana, for instance. And it just happens that when I was president of the United States a little more than 30 years ago, I called for the decriminalization of marijuana. Not the legalization.
That must have won you a lot more friends than you had to begin with.
As a matter of fact, it was not an unpopular issue because then we were talking about treatment of drug addicts and doing away with the drug on the consumer end. But since then, there's been a massive move toward concentrating almost exclusively on doing away with the suppliers, with helicopters, with bombs, with military action and so forth. And I think what President Cardoso says, with which I agree, is that we need to stop putting young people in prison that have a small amount of marijuana and let them be treated if they're addicts and concentrate on the treatment and the consumers instead of just concentrating on people in the South Hemisphere who produce drugs, particularly marijuana. And I think that this issue in Mexico has been emphasized by the incumbent president now, who sent massive numbers of troops into Mexico, which has caused, I think, so far over 12,000 deaths.
Of the three of you, you are the one that lives in the south. What's your perspective looking north at the consumer? Although you have consumers in South Africa too, as you've already illustrated. Well, you seem to...
Yes, I haven't given a great deal of thought to this. I mean, I go along with our friends, I mean, that you do everything you can to be preventive, you know, and yeah, I would say...
It's not often that I find that you've not given a lot of thought to something. I'm thinking of the contrast between people who get locked up for perhaps peddling a bit of marijuana or being caught with it in their possession, and a banker that's been named for lying or deceit or whatever else that they get up to. They don't go to jail, but the criminalisation of drugs ensures that some of the most vulnerable people end up in the neck.
Yes, I think ours is a thoroughly unequal world, and it seems so obvious that instability is going to be a consequence of that. I mean, this is a particular example, but I mean, you can show it in so many different areas. I mean, when you get Occupy Wall Street and all of the demonstrations that we have had in developed countries, people are saying this is unconscionable and it is something that is not sustainable. I mean, that we are going to have to begin looking at trying to make our societies a great deal more egalitarian. One of the things that we were discussing this particular issue when one of us, Matti Ahtisaari, former president of Finland, said one of the reasons why you've had less turmoil in the Nordic countries is that they are actually, or they little painful even for him. And he went to the hospital. After the treatment, he was producing his card, and they said, not in Norway. You know,
Again, for nothing.
well, the taxes are quite high. Isn't it 70%?
So one of the consequences of the use of marijuana is that when I became president, of 1,000 people in America, 1 was in prison. Now, over 7 are in prison out of every 1,000. Primarily because young people have been put in prison just because of the possession of marijuana. So there's an argument on both sides.
But Cardozo and many others in the South, particularly in Latin America, are prepared to talk about it.
Yes.
Nobody in the North seems to be prepared to talk about it. The Portuguese apparently have done something quite
They
imaginative.
have. They will limit it.
But generally speaking, you don't find leaders saying, we'll decriminalise.
That's exactly right. And most of the people that are in prison in America are very young people. They're minorities. They're extremely poor or they're mentally ill. Those are the ones that go to prison. The rich white people very rarely go to prison.
They have good lawyers.
Now, each of you has been to a very interesting part of the world in the last few days. You've been in Egypt, and you've